Hello, this is Jason Fleming from J&M Simulations, and you're here with us today. We're at London Heathrow with an A321, and this video is primarily going to be a comparison and practically an overview of the Airbus A320 family series of aircraft. Now, I also have this one add-on that I would like to demonstrate and show off for you guys, and that's called the 3D Real Cockpit Effect. And without going into too much detail, because you're gonna see it right now, well, when I take off, it adds a level of depth and realism, and that's what a video's practically has been about. It's practically been about like building your own flight simulator X, because the developers apparently couldn't do that. So this is a little, all of our videos are a little manual of how to do that, yours, so that you can benefit from what you want from it. You can get what you want and take what you want from it. Now, we're gonna take off from here and we're gonna go to Gatwick, and that is very close. Actually, if you fly it directly, it's about 23 miles away, but we're gonna vector south some more, so that should bring us to about, like, say 40-50 mile trip, or repositioning rather. Now let's look at right here. I'm gonna flip the switch. Now this is practically where we're gonna go. We're gonna follow this the purple one right now, it's our active one, and the white ones are less active ones. Once we come around to the last one, we're gonna land at runway 8 right, and I'm gonna show you how to set our approach on the default aircraft. And you might be saying, oh my god, Jason, you're doing a default aircraft on such these videos. But that's okay, we're gonna show you, because we're gonna show you how this works, and this may be for beginners. Now, I know that the A320 is one of the most hated aircrafts for the default, because of what the developers did. They try to really incorporate the fly-by-wire technology, and it just didn't go so well because it was a little too demanding, and the aircraft really wanted to fly itself, and that you can't really have that, right? So right now the fly-by-wire is practically it right here. The little circle things, that's practically like the trim, and that activates like the rudder and how the rudder's positioned. And what it would do is automatically like configure that. And this is very important because we use it for takeoff, for landing, for climbing, and it would automatically configure that. And actually many accidents have happened because of this in real worlds. But and this is why we don't want it on right now. It can be on when you're autopiloting your flight, but we're gonna do that, but I don't want to turn it on anyway. So as I said before, we have a short flight, so I'm gonna set my speed up to a little bit, say like 200 knots rather. And our altitude, the final altitude for today, is going to be 10,000 feet using the standard pressure. And since we're really light, we are, well, in comparison, I know this isn't light by any means, well, from which you and I are comparing it to, but we are at 26,000 pounds. That's considerably light for an aircraft as such, and we're at 10% fuel, since we're not really going out. 11% fuel rather. We're not gonna, oh sorry, that's too much. We're gonna have a steep incline of takeoff, so we're gonna be at like 3,000 feet per minute. Now right now, since we're preparing for our departure, I'm gonna take off the fly-by-wire and configure our flaps to a setting of 2. Now since we're really light today, we are gonna take off at about 140 knots. That should be ample given this condition. And I chose this condition for a reason, actually. It directly correlates to the add-on that we're gonna use, so that's okay. So you'll see, it's nice. So we're gonna take out that warning light, put this to GPS, and when we're in the sky, I'm gonna talk to you about the Airbus A320 compared to its main competitor, the Boeing 737. So let's get this show on the road. I call myself. We're gonna configure the trim a little bit. It seems correct, and let's check. no airplanes, and you're clear to go. Now, given such a light state and light condition, we do not want to rev the engines up so much, and it's really slippery, so it's going to take a while longer to get out the runway rather than if it were dry. So we're going to use a little bit of our rudder, and here is the add-on effect. As you can see, it's shaking the cockpit around. We're off. Positive rate. We're going to put our gear up. Set to 1. And the plane is out of my hands right now. I don't have to worry about it. Let's see, once we reach about 4,500, I'm going to put the flaps all the way up. The flaps should help with our steep incline to an extent, since we're not going very fast. And let's get started with the facts. Now, as I said before, the A320 family is directly correlates to its competition with the 737 from Boeing. Now let's talk about the cost. Now this is quite an expensive aircraft, costing around $107.3 million to configure just one of these. And that's money. That is, considering what it actually holds, it's a lot of money. But you must take in fact that this cockpit and what's inside of there is leading edge. Now Boeing cannot compete with this. It cannot. It's not up to the date. It's not up to date. It's not what it is in the Airbus. Now, let's take a look at the price of here. It correlates the price of this fly-by-wire technology correlates directly. Now let's see. It's 80 for the newest generation that came out in the 90s. It is $89.1 million. Now that's a lot of money, yes it is, but a couple of $1 million is a lot, actually. So I'm going to give a point there to Boeing. Now, the software should not be that expensive, at least not to me. I don't think the technology is worth that much money, at least not to me. So you know what, I don't have to pay for it, so it's okay. Now, let's see the years that it was built. Now, this can actually have a really big impact, because it's time for you to build up your product or see whether or not this works or this doesn't work. And there's a 20-year difference from the time Boeing launched to the time this Airbus actually launched. Now, the Airbus launched in 1988, and the first livery it launched with was for Air France. And the Boeing was in the 1968, and it was with Lufthansa, the German company, the main hub for Germany. And that's actually very substantial, and as you can see, I'm pretty sure you are well more familiar with the Boeing if you live in America, as I do, than you are with an Airbus A320. It's more, you just know what it is a little bit more, because it's been there. It has its battle marks and scars, and you know it, you recognize it, more so than you do the Airbus than you would. But if you live in Europe or any other country besides America, then I'm pretty sure you would know Airbus a little bit better if you care about planes, which you would if you're watching this show, I'm pretty sure. So let's go down to the engines now. I fly in the game, those are the only engines I really fly with. I just love it. Looks really suave and not just mashed together. It looks like the developers of it took its time, and that's what I appreciate in my aircraft. And as you can see in those engines, it's nice. That's what I like, and it's the newest incarnation actually there of the aircraft. It actually went through 2 changes. This aircraft, and it's gonna come up with another one in 2015. I don't know what it looks like, but it looks not. I'm pretty sure it will look nice if it looks anything like these. And this is not just aesthetic. These engines have a lot of power. With 33,000 pounds per square foot of thrust coming out of the back of these things, these propel these aircrafts to an incomparable extent. Now, the Boeing variant or the 737 is not quite to that extent, but it's still massive if you compare it to anything else. Jet plane is very powerful. It is 27,300 pounds per square foot, and that's a lot, but it's not as much. Now, you look at this and you say, oh my god, the Airbus, this is nice, you have a lot more power, but then if you look at the fuel, at the range of it, you'll start to see your heads turn on empty. This has a very nice, only fuel, I should say. If it's packed up with only fuel, no passengers, no cargo, this has a very extensive flight time, flight distance at 3,200 nautical miles. But when it's filled up, it drops down to 2,700 nautical miles at Mach 0.78. That's its cruising speed, Mach 0.78. That's its maximum cruising speed. While on the Boeing 737, it gets you faster and further, but only just, with a range of, when full with passengers again, at 2,930 nautical miles, and at Mach 0.785. And that's not that much, but Mach is pretty much, and you wouldn't know by it, but that's a couple miles per hour faster. But it shouldn't, the passengers would not tell. It's not like you're going to get 100 miles an hour in the sky and it was going to take you an eternity to get there. It's not that bad. Now, for the passengers, this may be why it's, it has a little bit less of a range. It carries around 20 more passengers than a typical 2 configuration load at 185 passengers, and that's with high class and just regular class. While on the same configuration, the Boeing 737 only holds around 162 passengers. That's a lot of, imagine 162 people in front of you. That's a lot of people, but for efficiency's sake, you want to get the most passengers there on time as you can typically, and this is where the Airbus A321 excels at. So given this price, if we look again at its price at $107.3 million, this can make back, depending on how long it's in service, this can make back its money by the extra, say, 20 passengers, but it's going to be over the course of a few years. And that shouldn't take that long, considering the fact of how long these things are in the sky, And let's see, this maximum takeoff weight. Now this is nice, and this, again, it correlates with the engine amount of thrust and the amount of power this baby actually puts on. Now, it is at, that's a lot, 200,006 pounds. That's a lot. It takes off at that, yes, its maximum takeoff weight with passengers and fuel, and sometimes, depending on the configuration and depending on the aircraft, I know the A380 has this problem. Sometimes you cannot have full fuel and full passengers. You have to sacrifice either one or the other. That's takeoff weight of 174,000 pounds, which is of course a lot, but it's not as much. So there again, you can carry more cargo, which can make up for its price and give you more profit in the long run. And this is quite evident because over the next few years, past years that have occurred, the A321 family has been the fastest selling family of aircrafts ever. This beats out Boeing, this beats out any other aircraft livery that has come before it. It actually has beat Boeing in the past few years. Airbus is sneaking up on us. You Europeans really do know how to build airplanes. There's no hate on this channel. We all respect airplanes, given its manufacture and given everything. So airplanes are airplanes, and everyone has its design flaws and where it peaks up at, and we respect that. And you know, I can't make an airplane, so I'm not gonna quote unquote hate. But this is nice. So right now we are a couple miles out. It should take a while, but now I wanna venture us out a while. Let's save a little bit of time, and I'm gonna show you how with default airplanes you should select an approach. Okay. Now we're not gonna do an ILS landing. I like to do my landings in manual all the time, but we're gonna show you this. Okay, so we're gonna go shift 3, and this brings up our GPS. Now we can control almost everything from our GPS, given our flight patterns and everything. Now this takes place of the FMC, as many of you experienced flight simulators might know. Now this is practically this, but very cut down, very simple, but it has all the basic things that you might need. Now, no, you cannot program SIDS and stars and waypoints inside of here, and that's taken care of outside of this program. But this is basic, and you can get flying with this, and it's not as frustrating to learn as the FMC would be. So right now we're gonna go to right here, procedure page, and right here you see the procedures. Now we're gonna select an approach. Okay, enter, and I said before we are landing on runway 8 right. We're gonna click that, and we're gonna click vectors. Now what vectors does is it's a straight line. Okay, there's no fancy loops or twists or anything. It's a straight line, and it's the easiest one to follow. Now when you click here, you're gonna click activate. If you're lined up, or if you don't want to be, you're gonna click activate, and it's gonna automatically, depending on which you have your autopilot set to, turn the plane to where it wants to go, and it will go there immediately. So that's what we're gonna do, and I'm gonna show you. As you can see, it turned, and if you go to flight plan, it says that we are 53 miles away from the airport that we want to go at, and so it's going to venture us out. This can save a lot of time, and it's very nice for you quote unquote novice pilots who want to get into things but don't want to go through time, configure the FMC, don't know how things work, and that's fine. Now we are, in relative terms, short distance away from our destination. So right now we're going to look at our altitude, and we're at 10,000 feet, and that is quite good for how far away we are at 205 knots. Perfect. And again, with weather, I don't think I said this before, but I'm just going to say it now. With weather, it depends. Like if you have a stormy weather condition or rainy, because of the winds, you can actually, if you have tailwinds, quicken the pace of your airplane. If you have headwinds, slow it down, makes it use a little bit more power, but that's okay. You just have to compensate for that. If you're at 37,000 feet and going Mach 0.8, now that can can be detrimental to know, because if there's turbulence, it's going to push your airplane forward. You can you can exceed the maximum speed of your aircraft, and that's not good because it can compromise the integrity of it. So I'm going to show you about the mods that I actually have on this airplane. It is this one mod called, I don't know what it's called actually, but if you search up Flight Simulator X Airbus A320 upgrade, it has everything that you need. It has everything you need. What you have to do is change a configuration file. In this actual airplane, you haven't deleted it already because the configuration flight plan was so terrible. But that's okay, because this actually improves the way you fly tremendously. Now I always liked the look of this and the feel of this better than I did the 737, but I never knew how to fly it because it was so bad. And then I looked up online how to fly it, and that tuning up the fly-by-wire is very detrimental to actually flying it correctly, and as you would like any other aircraft in here if you're familiar to flying in simulators. Now we're gonna get off topic a little bit and get something else to talk about. Now I wanted to know if any of you had experience with X-Plane. I've searched it up, but I never had anyone tell me how it was or how good it was. I just need a little bit of help, because if that's what you guys want, as soon as I update my computer, that is what you will get. Now, speaking of computers, I am running a i7 920 default clocks. I don't really care to upgrade, with 8 gigabytes of RAM Kingston, a 650 watt power supply, and the HD 6570. Now I know I'm as surprised as you are. 6570, isn't that an entry level card? Yes it is, my friend. I was running something actually very higher, and this was my backup card, but my main card, it was a DOA, dead on arrival, and I did not get a warranty, stupid me, so I could not send it back. So instead of pouting or sending in an extra 200 and something odd dollars, I decided just to use my backup card, and it works fine, as you can see. Now what I'm averaging is about 50 frames per second. Most sliders are full. I keep traffic down, and what I do is I record at say 30 frames per second, which is ample from my experience, and I hope yours. Tell me what you think about this, and I think it's nice. Now flights like the add-on planes can actually take a chunk down from your flight simulator performance and experience, but it's okay as long as you have 30 frames per second. I think it is playable tremendously. My partner Matt, flight simulator partner Matt, has an i7 just like I do. He has an Ivy Bridge i7 with a GTX GTX 650, and that runs like a beauty right now. That video card is actually very important to how you play. My resolution I record at is 720p. That is because of the small file sizes, and because it doesn't strain my GPU as much as it would on 1080p. Now right now, let's get back to the subject. I am 30 miles away, and that blue one, as you can see, is Gatwick. 37 miles away, and we are going in. We are at 10,000 feet, and that's okay. We are going to start our descent at 20 miles, and we're going to descend to 8,000 feet at a rate of 1,000 feet per second, and that's okay. That's fine. That is very slow, and I doubt that passengers would notice it. Now for standard procedure, if this was a real aircraft flight, just to let you know, we would have our landing lights on, because we are at 10,000 feet, and anything anywhere above 10,000 feet, at least as far as my knowledge is concerned, we put our landing lights off, and when we descend below, we put it on, so that way we don't have to configure it just as we're about to land. cockpit, and it makes it very simple, very easy. You just need a little bit of training to do it. As long as the pilot gets it lined up just right at the correct altitude for the distance to the aircraft, it will pick up and it should be fine. Now, an ILS, for those of you who don't know, is letting the airplane practically land itself, and that's only if it's a Cat 3. ILS, Cat 2s, you would need to use it. It's not as, let me take care of it. Say the airplane says that, let me take care of it, I got this. It's not as much as that. It's more manual. The Cat 3s practically land themselves. Now what I do when I ILS, I press Z and that disengages the autopilot, so that lets me fly it manually. But when you press Z, just to let you know, it does not take off the auto throttle. Now you're gonna disengage that manually because you don't want to be landing at 250 knots. That you cannot have flaps on, and that leads to a very, very unstable and rough landing. And that's not good because the passengers, if you're flying with a livery, you can get fired for such a landing. You don't want to get fired. This is the best job ever, and this is what I aspire actually to be. Now I'm not sure what I want to do, guys. Go to the military or take the civilian route. You guys, if you know anything about that, drop a comment down in the comment section. I don't know, but I'm only 15. I have my life ahead of me, and I like to prepare for things before I do it. I'm very up on it. On that case, otherwise I'm very type B, not type A at all, except for that, preparing for my future because I know what I want. But that's okay. I think that's pretty fine. Back to the Airbus. Let's see. One thing I love about the Airbus that I'm pretty sure I mentioned in other videos is that the integrated cockpit, the cockpit that has everything together. Everything is practically, if you from an A318 all the way to an A380, you can find your way above the cockpit very easily. Requires minimal training, and that if it saves, again, Airbus manufacturers, Airbus carriers, a lot of money on pilots, getting them trained in certain types of aircrafts that they're not familiar with. They have to relearn the whole process. Of course, they know the basics or fundamentals of flying, but not everyone. You cannot be expected, say if you're a pilot, you cannot be expected to one day fly a 777 if you only have experience with an MD-80. You know what I'm saying? They're completely different planes. That's as simple as I can put it, and that's as true as it is. They're completely different planes, and that's why you need training. It's you have the fundamentals, and now you have the expertise, or sharpen them on a specific aircraft, and that's practically a step that Airbus has taken out of the equation, and it has saved them a tremendous amount of money, and it makes sense, a lot of sense. Now if we switch over here, you can see over here the pounds per hour. This is very actually useful, for me at least. It tells you how much fuel you were expending or expelling through your engines per hour, given your power profile on your engines. That shows you practically how efficient you are, and given how fast you are going. Now let's see how far away we're at 20, so we're going to descend right now. It's 8,000. And one thing with this mod though that I don't like, that as soon as you descend, it descends at a rate of 3,200 feet. It's just not that good, but it's okay. I'll correct it. Let's see, I cannot change it right now, but it's okay. I'm gonna just change that up, 1,000, as I said. And we can be at 5,000, it's okay. See, again, remember what I said, that it does not disable this, so we can still configure this even though we're not actually following a flight plan from what the computer knows, at least. Let's go. Let's see your rate. Now when you get to around 1,000 feet off the ground, you're gonna wanna take away from your power. You're gonna take away from your descent rate. You do not want to exceed typically 1,000 feet per minute. Now let's just change our weather right now. I think I showed you what it is, and I don't want really a hard landing, so excuse me, okay? Right here, we're gonna go to clear skies so we can see actually, and I want you to see what the mod actually provides. Here we go. Descending quite rapidly, actually. I'm gonna go pick that up. Now this is the #1 rule when flying, actually, in low altitudes, and what rookie pilots actually constantly break is that you do not, and I repeat, do not, when exceed 250 knots per hour when you are flying below 10,000 feet. Now that can get you and your airlines in a lot of trouble with the FAA, and that is not good. You will be fired so quick if you get your airlines in trouble because you missed a simple rule. Very simple, actually. So we're gonna try to follow that just so we can become habit. Now we have the airport in sight right here, so we're gonna start doing our little checks. And one little terrible thing about this aircraft, not this aircraft in general, is that this default aircraft, excuse me, is that it does not have an auto brake system. And that's okay. I'm gonna put this up. This prevents the brakes from locking. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna arm our spoilers. Practically slows us down. Set flaps to 1. And we're gonna take off our auto throttle. We have our landing lights. And we'll wait a few seconds for air to go down. Followed Matt's actual procedure for landing, you will know that at 2 miles you want to incrementally release your flaps depending on your speed and your altitude and your distance away from the airport. And at 2 miles you want to have full flaps. Now disregard that. That's just Airbus telling me what to do again, how to fly. That's practically a power for flaps. Now you don't want to have to actually go idle given if your flaps, because that's practically a stall warning. We're more stalling, that was prevention. So we can clearly see the lights now. I'm going to put our gear down. Excuse me, I have a cold. This is crazy. Okay, we have our gear down. 3 green. That's great. And 3 green means that none of them are locked, none of them fail to come down. They're good. Now with this we can practically idle it, practically glide it. And on landing I have a little bit of a surprise for you. You're gonna see it, you're gonna like it. I hope so. Let's see. A little bit fast so we can deploy our spoilers. how high we are off the ground. And this is very accurate rather than just reading pressure, air pressure. And that's what we usually use when figuring out how high altitude practically. So we're around 2 miles away, so we're gonna put our flaps to full, arm these, and hope for the best. Nah, we've got this.
Sink rate. Sink rate.
That's our secret warning.
Sink rate.
Airbus practically is the dictator of the airplane world. It likes to control how you fly, but that's practically why it has a very nice safety rating. Especially that A320. Oh gosh. It takes a moron to crash that. And we're going to increase our power because we don't want to slam down on it. That's okay. Now one thing this aircraft does have that many of you are familiar with is reverse thrust. It just slows us down even more so, but it's not as reliable as doesn't make as much of a difference as braking does, so we're gonna as well rely on that. And what the pilots do when they come up this far, they cut the engines down to idle and flare. Here we go. Reverse thrust. Oh, they landed on the center line. How nice is that? Kill the reverse thrust or return to idle. And we are at Gatwick, people. There we go. So I'm not going to show the taxiing or anything else that's very mundane and very monotonous and boring. So here you are.